Well, Schlock is in the air tonight. I am your host, Darby Ellis Lewis Wilson, and this is my other host, my co-host, my buddy, my compadre, Chris Anonymous. Chris, do you know why I say Schlock is in the air tonight?
I do not know why you say Schlock is in the air tonight.
Well, I say it because the thing that you gave me to say was quite the tongue twister. As you can see, I'm not incredibly eloquent, but so we talked about this a little bit before, but last week while we were doing our review of Arena, maybe not at exactly the same time, but nearly the same time, the same evening, there was another podcast out there in the world. See, we thought we were being super original. A podcast called 13 O'Clock was reviewing the movie we were reviewing tonight, Slithis. And I thought this movie was incredibly obscure. Apparently, Slithis is in the air. The spawn of Slithis is hot right now.
Well, I think that this movie could probably use all the reviews it can get because it probably doesn't have very many.
Well,
I say the more the merrier.
That is true. Yeah, I mean, this movie couldn't really find a lot on this movie. I mean, for one, the name, as you can see behind me, is Slithis, but it also goes by Spawn of the Slithis. Yeah, at the beginning.
The title sequence, the title is Spawn of Slithis.
Yeah, and so it has two names. There's very little information about this movie out there. It doesn't have a Wikipedia page at all, which practically means it's not real. I don't even know if we actually watched something that actually exists. But yeah, there's just not much info about this movie. So hopefully we have something interesting to add to the Slithis commentary out there in the world as we do our deep dive. But before we get into it, no matter where you guys are watching, whether you're watching us live on Facebook or you're watching us on YouTube, please give us a like, comment, follow us, subscribe. Let us know that you're there. Let us know what you're thinking. And let's make this conversation happen. You know what I'm saying? Yeah. And also, quick disclaimer, we are going to ruin Slithis and potentially many other movies for you. We are not spoil free. Yeah, exactly. Yeah. So, and I think we have something very special that we're going to save until the end. If you want to tell us, if you want to give us a little tease.
Well, you came at me with the idea of if we get 100 likes on this episode, then we'll do something special, and
that's right.
We'll let you know what that is at the end of the show.
It's a challenge. It is a Schlock challenge. So make sure you tell all of your friends once this comes out on YouTube. Share it, get those likes because we're going to do something very special. Once this episode reaches 100 likes, which might be in like 10 years. Oh, yeah. Much more. Yeah. 2 hours. I'm guessing. I'm predicting 2 hours.
I mean, it'll be next week.
So anyway, as I said, this movie, there's not a lot on it. The most information I could really find on it about the production is that the actor that played I don't know if the creature is called Slithis. I don't think that would technically be correct.
He's the spawn of Slithis.
Exactly. The Spawn, we'll call it.
We'll call him Spawn.
The actor who played Spawn apparently had to be sewn into the suit the entire time because they didn't want it to have any visible zippers or buttons, which I think is actually pretty good idea.
Evidently, they were having like 15-hour shoots because they filmed it in like 2 weeks or something like that.
Yeah.
So he was in that suit for a long time.
And financially, all I could find was that this movie was filmed for about $100,000, which was probably a lot more back in 1978 but still a pretty shoestring budget for a creature feature.
Yes.
Wouldn't you say? So anyway.
This movie just makes me smile and laugh. Let's get into the web of schlock. There's not a lot there. This part of the show, we like to connect or see how different actors, directors, writers connect to the world of schlock and, crappy horror movies, sci-fi movies, action movies, comedies, just everything. Not a lot. This is another one of the cases where this is a very isolated film, and a lot of the people never did anything else, or at least not that I could find, or if they did, the very minimum. The director, Stefan Traxler, only directed one other film, and it was a made-for-TV movie in 1999.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, he has
quite
more
the hiatus.
Credits. Yeah, he has more credits as like a second unit producer and a guy who works. Yeah, I don't know. The composer, man, Steve Zuckerman needs a shout out because that dude was awesome. He scored not a lot of things, but like a strange variety. Like there's some Winnie the Pooh shorts. And
I'm guessing cartoons. A lot of them were cartoons.
Yeah, a lot of cartoons.
I was going to say, man.
But then there were some softcore sci-fi weird movie and like some other horror movies, and it was just a odd
very
variety
eclectic.
Of stuff. Yeah, eclectic. And then actor-wise, you couldn't find out a lot about any of them. Most of them have no other credits on IMDb. But Dennis Faltz, who played Dr. John, this guy has got an interesting
Dr. John!
He's done lots of little bit parts in different movies, and he shows up as like extras in a lot of movies. But he's done tons of video games, like lots of video games for like decades, where he's like the narrator. Like he's got like
really
over 100 credits, and almost all of them are like famous video games where he's the narrator, like Castlevania Symphony of Night for the PlayStation, which is like one of the quintessential Metroidvania games. He played Death. He was the voice of Death in that. Yeah, goes all the way back to like the original Metal Gear. He was a narrator in the Sonic the Hedgehog movie that came out recently. Like he had credit for that. I don't know.
Dude is working.
Dude's working.
Yeah.
He had a 2-episode stint on Lost. He was the Scottish monk. Yeah. So just tons of video game narration, which is really interesting niche to like move your career in. But man, like
out of all the people in this movie, he would not have been the person I would guess to have a continued career. But I mean, he did give a lot of info dumps. So
king of the exposition.
Yeah, man.
And that's it, man. I got nothing else for Web of Schlock. I mean, I'm sure I'm missing something, but I can't find it.
Well, so you've touched on some of the things I want to talk about. The way we normally do the show is we do the good, the bad, and the schlock. And I'd like to pull an audible this week. I think we've done it before where we've started with the good, started with the bad, and we've sort of fast forwarded through the good and the bad. I would like this week to start with the schlock, just so that I've just so many things in this movie, good or bad. I feel like, Chris, you picked a gem of a movie for the show, because this movie to me is just absolute, pure, unfiltered schlock.
Absolute perfection. Yes, I concur that we should skip the good and the bad and go straight to schlock, because I have nothing in my good or bad column that is not schlock.
Right. Exactly.
This is the classic case. This is like a textbook of what schlock is.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. If I've been telling people about this movie all week, and the way I've been describing it to them is, imagine there's a person who has studied and memorized everything there is to know about movies and filmmaking, but they haven't ever actually seen a movie. and then they went and created one.
Yeah.
There's just so many weird things in this that I think like sort of work but sort of don't. Like, it's such a weird duck.
Yeah, I mean, this is inherently bad in the sense that all schlock is bad, and that's kind of the point. It's like finding the good in bad. Like, it's like if someone had the intention of making the greatest movie on earth, but they just didn't quite have the skill set to do it. But you can't fault them for that attempt because, man, they A for effort, right? It's not like no one. It's weird to say that no one phoned in any performance anywhere on this set, even though it feels like it's all non-actors and really bad actors but it just felt like everyone was like trying.
Well, and that's something I would give to it, that, like you said, non-actors, a lot of the characters in this that we see are the winos, the vagrants. And even though the dialogue was so weird, like, to me, I was wondering, like, are these guys like legit? Were they out filming in Venice?
So the man on the street, if we can pull that picture up, this is where the movie got really interesting.
Yeah, this guy, his curly head of hair, just very interesting. So this is actually a different shot. It's of the winos of which we speak, but I believe you're talking about when they're doing like some kind of interviews,
because it's they're talking to the camera, and it's supposed to be that they're being interviewed for some TV show, but it had a very like raw indie film kind of vibe of like people just looking at the camera and telling you bits of info about a story.
Right.
He feels like someone that they found on the street and they just let him talk. I'm sure they gave him the dialogue, but it was at this point when I started kind of watching the movie with different eyes. And it was, so you have the whole non-actor vibe, right? Everyone on Venice Beach, just what I loved was this felt like the 1970s as a character. The whole movie felt like a time capsule of watching what life was like in the background while they were filming this low budget creature feature. You could see real life going on because they couldn't afford to not have real life going on. So it's this weird like time capsule of the 70s, and it felt like a character in the movie. And that's one of the things I loved about it the most, was that just quirky characters. Because they
definitely seemed a product of its time.
Yeah,
for sure.
Like the costumes weren't costumes. They were just people they found on the street. Like, that guy looks cool, let's put him in the movie.
So something I'll bring up for my schlock, because this is something I've been trying to wrap my head around all week since I watched them on Wednesday nights. I've been thinking about this nonstop. The extra dialogue in this movie, like the dialogue is so odd. They have these parts where they're saying things that have nothing to do with the plot. They're interviewing, or not the interview. I'm sorry. When we first see the winos, the guys that are like drunk, and they're like talking about like the Australian horrors, and they were apparently maybe Vietnam vets. The couple that gets killed in the beginning, like when the man's getting out of bed, he like starts getting dressed, and he's like, "Woman, I've been getting dressed getting
42 years, and I haven't put a bathrobe on yet."
We have this extremely long scene of this girl talking about life in North Dakota. The guy on the boat who just like he jumps out of this dude's houseboat, and he's like, "Oh, I thought you'd be home." Well, just bye.
The dude who has the houseboat, and the whole like conversation on the way to the houseboat with that girl, the North Dakota.
Yeah. So, and my absolute favorite, when our main character, he breaks into the house, the active crime scene investigation, and there's
try a eucalyptus.
Yeah, the cop is like, "Oh, sorry, I have this cold." He's like, oh, we'll try this cough drop. And I was
It's
like, is this a eucalyptus commercial? Like what is happening right now? And they
that
just
was one of my favorite moments.
And then they just go right back into it. But I can see potentially why it's there. I can see maybe two reasons. Maybe that actor like actually was sick and they were like, oh no, this is going to hinder the performance. So we got to like put this in here. Or the writer was thinking like, okay, this is going to be something that endears our main character to this police officer to give him some more information. And that's what I mean about like a person that's like studied everything about a movie, but has never seen one before.
So Robert Altman in the 70s did a lot of movies where they're really long and, you know, it's characters talking and the plot is not really the point. It's more the world they live in.
Mm-hmm.
And like, and then the 90s had that too. I'm thinking of Slackers and a couple other films where it's just, you're going out on the street, you're meeting people and you're listening to their weird conversations and you linger on those conversations. Right. And then you kind of move back into the plot. So it felt like it felt Altman-esque. It felt like these weird, like indie slacker movies. Except for it was, well, yeah, it could be, but it was told in the cracked shell of a creature feature, which is just bizarre.
Yeah. So anyway, that's one of my biggest takeaways. But yeah, I don't know. The thing, the way it was filmed, the dialogue to me, and I'll put this in my good column. I'm going to sneak into the good column here because it's one of the few solidly good things. I enjoyed that it felt like a play, like a theatrical production. And I think that's one of the things we're kind of going around like with the weird sets and things. I know we've talked about it, but I can't remember if you've seen it or not. It's called Blood Feast. It's like 1968, I think, about 10 years earlier. But like
I'm aware of it, but I've not seen it.
Horror movies that they look like they're a theater production.
Right.
And so for me, seeing stuff like that, even though it doesn't like look the great and it's look the greatest and it doesn't seem like it's written the greatest, to me, that inspires me to like make film. To me, that says like, yeah, I could do this and I could do a monster movie on a shoestring budget and I could make it relatively interesting and have like a weird, interesting style to it.
But can you make it where the 1970s are one of the characters?
Probably not for $100,000.
I would like to transition. This is good and schlock. Can we pull up the slow motion frisbee? This is the perfect intro to a schlock film. This sets everything up on how you should watch it. It's kids playing frisbee, but it's in this bizarre slow motion that just goes on and like.
Well, and they use music that throughout the movie.
Yeah, it does it throughout the movie, but it just set it up here like it does this long zoom in, this kind of pan over and then zoom in right to this, and then when you cut to the close up, it's all in slow mo, but the music is just bizarrely cartoony and happy. Yeah, but it doesn't fit with the slow motion at all, and it just creates such a weird vibe to like, what am I? I started laughing out loud. Like, there's so many moments that are probably unintentionally funny, but I'll give them the benefit of the doubt because there's no way you didn't know that music wasn't Looney Tunesy.
Right. It reminds me of like 1960s, maybe even 1970s, like public service announcements, like little Jimmy is going to go and do something dangerous. Watch and see what happens. Like all these oboes and stuff.
And then when they see the dead dog, it like does this weird speed up and then they tear off and then it goes back to slow motion. And so you're right. It set like this crazy tone for the movie and the
this juxtaposition of the goofy music and the kids playing frisbee, and then it showed the dead dog, and I was gonna get a screenshot of this, but I thought maybe it'd be just like way too gory, because like I had to go back to that shot of the dead dog several times, and I even paused it and like looked at it. I can't figure out if that's like a real dead dog or not. Like if
it's hard
like
to say.
Around the eye, like so it looks like the dog's been like skinned or something, like the skin's been ripped off of it. Around the eye, it looks like maybe there was a prosthetic laid onto this dog, but around the mouth and stuff, it looks like it was actually torn off. So I was like, dude, that's like a brutal way to start this movie. Like this might footage, be legit.
Yeah, they were looking over for just a shot, and they're like, oh, there's a dead dog here. Oh, we got to use it.
Yeah, I mean, maybe, because I thought, oh, maybe it's a still, because the dog's not moving at all. Maybe it's a still shot, but I look and the water is moving behind it. You know, that got me on board right away, to be completely honest.
Yeah, and here's the thing with the music, is it weaves into normal horror music at certain points, and then it weaves back out to this bizarre cartoony orchestration. And you don't know what kind of music you're going to get played to what scene. And sometimes it's like meshes perfectly, and sometimes it's just bizarrely like just cross purposes, right? And super enjoyable. So
such an odd juxtaposition. And so speaking of tone, I want to talk about the so we're still in the beginning ish of the movie, and it's that couple at the beginning, the older couple that gets killed. Again, so I actually did get a screenshot of this, and it's relatively gory. So if you're squeamish, turn away.
3 seconds to close your eyes.
Yeah, 3 seconds to close your eyes.
Oh.
Again, it's right. We have this skeleton there. And again, I thought like it was going to be this really brutal, maybe very good movie, good effects movie. But something that really threw me off throughout was this idea that they kept talking. You can get that off the screen now.
Wait, I have a question.
Okay, well, go ahead.
Okay, because I was going to have a similar picture. Did she taste better?
Well, okay, and that's the thing, right? Like she is just completely like,
and he's just got a little red paint slapped on him.
And so one of the themes throughout this movie is that they're saying that it looks like ritualistic cult killings, and I'm like, that doesn't look like a ritualistic cult killing, and at the very least, shouldn't they be talking about it looks like there's an animal loose, there's a tiger loose from the zoo, or a bear or something. And so I was trying to think like lions and tigers and bears. I was trying to think in 1978, when did the Manson murders happen? That was in the 60s, wasn't it?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Well, was there anything like that going on around Venice Beach in 1978? Any like religious cult murders? I mean, I don't know my 70s California history.
I'm going to go with probably.
You're right. Yeah. Like this is probably happening right now somewhere, but it was just seemed so odd to me that would be like the conclusion where you see, you see this completely mangled corpse. Like it doesn't have like any pentagrams carved into it or anything. And they're like, oh, must be a cult.
Yeah, you're like, no, it should be. It looks like some creatures eating people. Yeah, no, I agree. There's a couple more things I want to touch on. Is there anything else you want to go to next, or?
I we're kind of touching on it, but the settings, like you did the man on the street interview, but they're just like these weird, interesting shots throughout the whole thing. I said that they just found a bunch of funny places, I think, to film things. Like it's toward the end where they're talking about how they're going to capture the spawn. And it's like one of those running dialogue things where they're in one conversation, but it changes.
They did that a lot. They did that 2 or 3 times in this movie. Yeah.
And so they just have like, I don't know, was the cinematography good in this movie? Like, did they
Some of it was. There were some really cool shots. Some of it was just awful. But
yeah, so this shot, like it's where the wino was like going to, he's going to get more wine or take a pee or something. And it's this silhouette with the brightly lit background. And of course it has the cartoony music going past. I'm just like, what movie is this?
Right.
But I thought that was a cool shot.
It is a cool shot. It reminds me of a shot later on where it's just the tugboat, and it's a similarly framed shot in the tugboat. We don't have a picture of it, but it's just going along in the night when they're going out to hunt. Another cool shot. They got some really, are just like some smart shots that like were impressive, like especially with the budget, like when they're in the football field watching the cheerleaders, or they were watching someone, and then
yeah, it's like a marching band or something.
Yeah, marching band, and then it like pans up and over and like zooms in, and it's the teachers walking in the high school, and then we go to them having dialogue, and I'm like, that's just a cool shot that like you wouldn't expect for this budget of a film to and they do it several of those throughout, and I'm like, yeah. So right. Yeah, I don't know if the directing is good or bad, but there's some good composition and some cool shots. And so I don't know where the credit falls there between the director and the cinematographer, or if they both just had some wins and some misses. Right.
And one last thing I want to get to, because I kind of want to transition into some maybe bad, but I would be remiss if I didn't point out the guy with the houseboat. He has like this little shrine to himself. He has
a picture of himself.
Yeah, it's like a 70s profile pic for his Tinder account. Like, what a weird interaction. It's like his headshot. And trying to figure out, was that a thing? Like, did people?
I think every actor was trying to like make their character the most. Like, they just like, okay, you make this character your own. And it's like, my guy would have a picture of himself. So when he brought ladies back and they looked away from the real thing, they could look at the picture.
The idealized version of him in picture format.
There's no mirror above his bed. It's like a portrait painting of himself.
Right. Yeah. And speaking of characters, I think that you have a special character that you'd like to bring up for everybody. I certainly can't.
Yeah. We can go there. The overacting masterclass is what I called this shot. Oh man.
Yeah, and we haven't been able to decide who he is. He's like the police chief or the police lieutenant.
Yeah, it's hard to find the credits because they all have generic names or similar names, like police one or police at this or police here. I think it's the police captain, but it doesn't matter. He was awesome. This is like overacting masterclass. It's like so good and so over the top, and he just goes on, and he has the greatest line, and it's like where he's like, I don't care one bit about your Slithis story. And then the main character corrects him. It's Slithis. And then he like purposely like does the bit from Army of Darkness, the Slithis.
Yeah, this dude, I mean, if for nothing else, you need to watch this movie for this scene, for this performance, where this guy just swings for the fences and his eyes and his face are just, he didn't,
there was no slicing of the who ham. He took the whole who ham. The whole thing, man. He gets the who ham award. I love that guy. Just so bizarre, and like you'd never seen him before, and this was another part that felt like it was staged like a play.
Definitely.
Yeah, like the way they exited, the way they entered, just their timing, their stiltedness. It was just so bizarre.
And that acting method would have probably worked really well on stage, right? Yes. You have to project and really contort your face so that the audience can see what you're doing.
A small bit of it, yeah. But I bet that's what happened. I bet a lot of these people are like in a local community theater, right? Okay, yeah, here we go. This is one of the best moments, and they just stay on it. It's a bar that has a turtle race.
Yeah, they had those in the 70s.
Yeah, and that's the point. This was not invented for the show. This was something that happened on a regular basis at this location, and they're like, we got to film it. And it's that whole the 70s Venice Beach as a character in the film.
Right. So we're running out of time here very quickly. I just want to touch on something that I thought was solidly bad before we start saying our goodbyes. I feel like the motive of the main character, I feel like I didn't get it. He's like a high school journalism teacher that just hates his job, so he's looking for a scoop. I mean, is that about sum it up?
That does sum it up, but I loved it.
You loved that?
Yeah, I loved that idea of like a disillusioned high school teacher who he's a journalism teacher, so he's got this passion of he wants to be a journalist.
Right. Well, I don't know.
Agree to disagree.
Agree to disagree. Yeah. So our challenge is there is another Slithis movie called Behold the Slithis. It is a fan-made film that came out in 2013 on YouTube. If we get 100 likes on this video, we will watch and review that movie. We will torture ourselves for your pleasure. Next week, however, we're watching a movie I've been waiting a long time to watch called Velocipaster. Velocipaster. Check it out on Tubi. I'm Darby Ellis Lewis Wilson. This is Chris Anonymous. We've been compelled by Schlock. We'll see you next week.
Wait, no.